Mhm. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another tribal webinar. Today, we have the honor of hosting Mike Hyde and Anna Cook from Swinomish. They're going to be presenting on the food sovereignty and the 13 Moons curriculum. If you remember or you were participating in our last webinar, actually, I think it was our second or third webinar, we hosted Larry Campbell and Jamie Donatuto from Swinomish as well, and they presented on the Indigenous health indicators. And the food sovereignty and 13 Moons curriculum is an extension of that work. So we're super honored and thankful to have both Mike and Anna presenting today. Before we get started, we'll go ahead with our land acknowledgement. And I know a lot of you are joining from different areas and different territories, but I'm going to read our land acknowledgement at the that we use for the North Sound ACH. So we begin by acknowledging with humility that the land where we are today is the territory of the people of the Salish Sea. Their presence is imbued in the waterways, shorelines, valleys, and mountains of the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish people since time immemorial. And I just wanted to thank all of you for being here and being present. I wanted to let you know that today is my last webinar that I will be hosting with the ACH. I've really enjoyed my time and work that I've been able to do with the ACH, and it was a very tough decision, but I want you all to know that this work is not ending, and there are great staff at the ACH that will continue this work beyond my time here at the ACH. So thank you all for joining, and I know that the tribal and equity work will continue with Liz Baxter, the CEO, and her team at the ACH. They're a wonderful staff. They've been super supportive in the tribal and equity learning. And I've loved being a part of the team, and I'm hoping that I can still be an active participant in the work that the ACH does. So moving on to today's presentation, like I said before, we're going to be discussing the 13 Moons community, 13 Moons curriculum and the community gardens. And these gardens were continued on from the Northwest Indian College campus. Their campus went into a virtual learning, and Anna and Mike and her team have continued that work with the Elders Garden. They've reclaimed the Wild Berry Garden, expanded and fenced in the learning gardens, and introduced a weekly fresh produce stand. They'll go into more detail on that. And then just prior to that, giving a history of the 13 Moons curriculum and where that came from, along with the calendar. A little bit about the presenters. Mike Hyde works for the Swinomish Indian Tribal Community in the Community Environmental Health Program as coordinator and certified wild plant and medicine educator for the 13 Moons program. Anna Cook is a Swinomish tribal member and works for the Swinomish Indian Tribal Community Environmental Health Program as an associate and youth outdoor educator. And I would like to welcome Anna to the floor. She will be starting us off in a good way with a prayer.
Thank you, Tempest. O ha shaksia utigwit si chath dwal ti silhail. Utigwit si chath dwal ti seswok chath. Wal halit cho ti loklok chath. Wal halit cho ti siaya chath. O Creator, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering. Please bless our elders and please bless our friends. And thank you all for joining us today. And we're really excited to be presenting with you all.
Thank you, Anna, for those beautiful words. We're going to go ahead and share your slides, and the floor is both yours and Mike's.
Okay, great. So Mike, I don't know if you can introduce yourself. I know we're having some audio issues. Let's see if she can. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start it off. So again, Mike Height, she's my supervisor, and I've been working with her for 2 years now, and it's been such an honor being able to work for my community. And again, my name is Anna, Adultsa Seedsta, Celestialat Seedsta. My ancestral names are Adultsa and Celestialat from my mom's side and from my grandfather's side on my mom's side as well. I am a Swinomish tribal member, and I'm a descendant of the Wallapai, Havasupai, Chemehuevi, Cherokee nations on my dad's side. And I'm also a descendant of the Swinomish and Swinomish tribe and the Scowlitz First Nations on my grandma's side. And I'm really excited again to be here. And so we work for the Community Environmental Health Program, and we also maintain our 13 Moods at Work program underneath that umbrella. So if we can go ahead and get started and go to the next slide. So for those who are unfamiliar with the Swinomish Territory, according to the Point Elliott Treaty, which was signed in 1855, these are our legal boundaries, and our village is located in Skagit County in the O'Connor Anacortes area. We sit right between Bellingham and Seattle. Next slide. And so to kind of give you a little background on what 13 moons are. So it's a calendar recognized globally by numerous Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. The Swinomish people have been using this calendar in reference to what seasonal events have been taking place during that lunar phase. So currently we are nearing the end of the moon of the whistling robin, and we are entering the moon of the digging time. Next slide. So here's kind of a brief overview of all the different moons. There's quite a few, and these are the acquainted 12-month calendar months that kind of go alongside them. However, these are not set in stone. For example, like we're still seeing some of the things that were available during frog talks, and we're also seeing things that are available during the digging time. Next slide. And this curriculum, again, was created by our program. Mike Height and Jamie Donatudos, two of the folks who I work with, were two of the main collaborators in creating a curriculum that has been offered for our people to use. And so, again, to kind of go over just a little bit in detail about 3 of these moons, in particular, the moon of the whistling robin, starting with, this is much of April, so the plant focus is ironwood. And so right here we have a picture of ocean spray, which is the blossom that comes from ironwood, and we use this in our heart healthy tea. It's a great blood purifier and something that is harvestable during this moon. Next slide. Next, we have moon of the digging time, and this is much of May. And so for those who are unfamiliar with camas, camas has been a staple food for the Swinomish people since time immemorial, and it's a beautiful flower, and we eat the bulb here that you can see on the right side of the flower. And it was used as a traditional food to help thicken stews, and also just used as a starch for people to eat. Next slide. And then next we have moon of the salmonberry, which is really exciting. It's almost berry season, and this is the first berry that is harvestable in our area. There's a lot of different berries that we're really fortunate to have access to, and this is again the first one. We also have our trailing blackberry, our huckleberry, and our thimbleberry, and our salalberry, and the list goes on. So we're really again fortunate and excited to start harvesting berries. Next slide. So we use this curriculum in line with a lot of the work that we do. So kind of an overview of the different things that our program is able to offer to our Swinomish people. We have a 13 Moons community garden, which we use as a learning site, and we plant a lot of our native plants from this area in small portions. And we invite folks to come up to our garden and to kind of reacquaint themselves with these plants. And so again, we do have some blackberry growing there. We have camas, we have a couple different camas gardens. And then we also have, we're starting a few different, like a Wapato bog, and we're also we have Labrador tea, we have Grindalia, we also have our Three Sisters garden. So again, we'll kind of go into more detail about the different things that we have in our garden, but it's been really fun being able to maintain that and again, offer these resources for our tribal folk. And we also offer a weekly produce stand where we're able to distribute fresh produce to our tribal members for free. We're a grant-based program, and we are able, in turn, able to offer these to our community members. We also offer an elder produce delivery service for folks who are unable to make it to our produce stands. Again, we currently have 5 stands around the reservation. And so for people who can't leave for whatever reason, we're able to bring produce to them. And then we also offer baby food meals, which is a new addition. An elder actually suggested that we start this program where we encourage healthier eating of whole foods for babies and also elders who have a hard time consuming foods. And Mike is our main wild plant harvesting educator, but we've been able to offer workshops where we go out and harvest, and then we also make medicines. And then we also maintain our 13 Moons at Work Facebook page, which I encourage everyone to look at. We work really hard at doing it. We're not incredibly tech savvy people, but we do the best that we can, especially during this COVID time. And we video a lot of our workshops, and we also offer infographics and things like that so people can stay up to date with what we're doing. And then something that I've been doing recently is doing Swinomish Youth outdoor lessons, and my sister has also been joining me in those. And it's been really fun being able to teach the youth about our plants. Next slide, please. So again, I'm going to try one more time and see if Mike's able to hop on to kind of talk about our community gardens. If not, I will go ahead and continue. Okay, it looks like she's still kind of struggling with her audio, which is a bummer, but this is a picture of our elder garden. We have raised beds, and we also have clamshell floors for our elders to walk on. So it's a little softer and it's very aesthetically pleasing. And we have a lot of raised beds again, so it's easy for elders to go in and harvest. So this is a picture of our Three Sisters garden from last year, and it was flourishing, to say the least. As you can see, our squash was kind of taking over, but it was absolutely beautiful to see. And we also had tomatoes and carrots. So folks who came to our produce stand were able to go and harvest these vegetables right from the dirt. And we also have Swiss chard and other greens offered in this area as well. Next slide, please. Here's a picture of my sister. She's a high school student, and this is a new program actually to Swinomish. She was a pilot program, and it's where we were able to invite a high school student to come work with our program as an intern, and she was able to get a core credit, which is a really big step, I think, for the youth and also for Swinomish as a community to kind of engage our younger students into what our community is capable of and what opportunities are available to them, and also get credit for it all in the meantime, which is really great. So here's a picture of what our produce stand has since expanded to. So before we just started off with 3 little baskets, and then now we have a stand, which is really exciting. And so during the summer months, we're able to harvest a lot of our greens and a lot of our vegetables and produce from our garden. But during the off season, like right now, there's still kind of new sprouts, so we're not able to harvest quite as much as we'd like to. We'll get local donations from farmers, and we'll also purchase produce from local food vendors to supply our produce carts. Next slide, please. And then here's another photo of some of the various produce that we offer. And we try and make it look as pleasing as we can. We found that the nicer we make it, the more welcoming it is for people to want to enjoy it. Next slide, please. And here's a picture of some of the elder produce bags that we deliver. We are currently up to 8, which is really exciting. It's really fun being able to, we're not able to engage with them, but we're able to visit their homes and do porch drops. And then we also do deliver to families who are currently in quarantine. So yeah, we offer this service through our 13 Moons at Work Facebook page. We just ask them to send us a direct message, and then we add them to our list. And then here's another photo of one of the stands that we have in our medical clinic. And we have a little list to kind of keep track of how many people that we get. And over the past 7 months, it has exponentially become more popular in our community. Next slide, please. Here's a picture of myself. We try and do roughly about once a month a food demo with our baby food meals. And again, this idea was introduced to us by an elder who suggested that we offer baby food meals, and it's been actually really popular to the new parents here at Swinomish, and also again to elders who have a hard time consuming whole foods. So it's a really simple process, really easy, and it's been really great seeing the youth and also the elders utilizing these. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of some of the things that we also offer at our stands. It's been really fun being able to work with our plants and find creative new ways to get our tribal folk interested and engaged in eating healthier foods. So we make things like carrot muffins and chocolate beet cake, which is really popular. And we also have rosehip tea here as well. Sorry, I just saw a message from Mike saying she might be able to join us. Mike, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, you're doing great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Next slide, please. And here's a picture of a cake that Mike actually made. This was moss cake. So during our nettle season, nettles are very popular in the Swinomish community. And so we made a moss cake, and this has been a really popular cake to make with nettles. We also made a nettle pesto, and that video did really well on our Facebook page. So there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate our first foods and healthier foods into your diet, and you can make really fun creations like this moss cake again that Mike made. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of one of our popular tea blends that we offered at our produce stand. This is our ladies' nighttime tea, and it had purple lilacs, madrona blossoms, madrona bark, borage, and mint, and it was very delicious, and it was fun seeing folks bring this home and hopefully enjoy it at their own leisure. And then we also offered it again to sample as well at the stand, just so folks can kind of get an idea of like what they're going to be making. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of some of our more popular tinctures and medicines that we were able to make. So we have our St. John's wort tincture and our California poppy glycerin. And so these are good for things like anxiety and seasonal disorder, depression, and also if you have trouble falling asleep at night, California poppy glycerin is great for that. And then we also offered a cough and cold immunity support tincture, which was also very popular during this kind of pandemic season, if you will. Next slide, please. So during this COVID season, we've had to work around hosting in-person workshops. As I'm sure a lot of you can understand, we're unable to do that currently. So what we do in turn is we make little kits for folks to take home, and then we make a demo video of how to put them all together. And then they're able to do it at their own leisure. And this has actually helped the popularity of people wanting to do this, because prior to COVID, it was kind of a struggle to get folks to come in and find a time that works for everyone. So it's kind of nice being able to offer these little kits that we again send home to families, and then they can make it when they can and at their own convenience. So COVID has been obviously a nightmare for a lot of communities, but also it's helped us been able to engage with more people. Next slide, please. Here's another one of our workshops. We actually were able to host somewhat of an in-person for this one. At our produce stand, we just laid out all of the tools needed, and then we had folks, when they came, create their forest tea rings, kind of socially distanced, and then kind of staggered depending on when the people came to participate. And so we just had some of the herbs that we've collected and some of the various medicines that people can use for tea. And then they were able to make them into a little ring that they were able to either hang on their walls decor. And it also smells really good, and use it as they wish to enjoy teas. Next slide, please. So here's a picture of another one of our kits. This was our licorice fern root kit for a tea that we made. And then also our licorice fern root infused honey, and also the tea that you can make with these ingredients. So this is a picture of one of our infographics that we post on our Facebook page. And it's really fun being able to learn about these plants on a personal level, but also being able to educate the community about them as well, because there's so many different uses for all of these plants, and it's been really fun being able to again learn with the community, and there's just something new to learn every single day. So it's been really great. We have a different plant. We try and have a different wild plant of the week. So currently this week in real time, it is soap berries because we're really grateful to have an elder actually come forth, and she's wanting to teach all of us how to make Indian ice cream. So that's really exciting. But in this week, it was Licorice Fern, and this is kind of a sample, a taste as to the things that we offer during that week. Next slide, please. So here's our preschool lessons. We've been able to put a 13 rooms garden, a mini garden for the preschoolers to enjoy. And we've been able to kind of engage them with and acquaint them with gardening and simple things like watering and weeding and the different things that you can plant and watch them grow. There's so much to watching a plant grow. It helps better yourself and grow as a person. So it's really great to have them engaged at such a young age. And then, yeah, again, here's one of the lessons. It was on clams and how they're a traditional food and the different types of clams that are harvestable in our area. Next slide, please. And then here's another photo of one of our lessons. We're able to paint how much water is inside you. And as you get older, you do get less water, but that means that you have to intake more water. It's always good to drink water. And we talked about the benefits of water and the different things that water is used for. Next slide, please. So yeah, that kind of wraps up our slideshow. It was pretty short, but we have a lot of fun projects that we're working on in our program. We're a very small program. We have Lara Campbell, who's our Swinomish elder. We have Jamie Donatudo, and she's our main grant writer, and she does a lot of the background work in making all of this possible. We have Mike Hyde again, who's our wild foods and plant educator. And then we have myself, a tribal member, and it's been really fun being able to engage on a personal standpoint. I think having that tribal connection with the community is really, really significant and important. And I can definitely see a change in the program as we kind of have more tribal members participate in our program and then also enjoy what we are able to produce. So it's been really great seeing that. And Mike, if there's anything else that you'd like to add about any of the programs that we do, please go ahead.
I will like to talk about our intern program. We've had a number of interns over the last 6 years. The majority of them are Northwest Indian College interns and also Vista interns, AmeriCorps Vista. And I'm happy to say that Anna participated in the first ever summer AmeriCorps Vista program with our program. And then from that, she was interested in continuing as a permanent employee with our program, which we were more than thrilled to have. And I put my hands up to her for joining our program, and she's absolutely right. When you have tribal people in a program like this, you get far better results in reaching out to the community. And so we are so thrilled to have her with us and hope that she'll stay for a long time. We have our interns, if you're familiar with the AmeriCorps Vista program, they're generally a year-long program, and they're usually graduates. And so we've had people from Bastyr who were nutritionists. We've had other new Bastyr students who were on the naturopathy medical doctor course. And so they were wonderful to have help us too. And like Anna was saying, that Jamie does a lot of the background research to make these things possible. And so these students help Jamie do the really sciencey hard work behind this very solid program. So we exist solely on grants. So it used to be a lot of EPA grants. Now we're under National Science Foundation grants and other private foundations. As granting resources change with administration in the US government, sometimes it's not as easy to get grants that support these types of programs. But in the last 6 years, we've had 15 interns or VISTA students, and of those, 11 have been Native students. And so it's really broadened our experience. And of course, they're not all Swinomish students, but they have really gone on to do amazing things in their communities. And so it feels like this program has really enriched their experience going to school. And so I hope that that will continue. And if you've never had INWIC interns in your program, I really recommend that you have that, because it just gives you such a rich time in your program and to see what they bring to the table. And then when they go home and tell their families about their experience with the wild foods and medicines, then it sparks conversations that those kids need to hear from their elders about wild plants and foods. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Anna and Mike, for sharing that. I think the programs that you guys are doing are amazing, and I hope that more tribes can do similar work if they're not already doing so. I've been particularly interested myself in the work that you guys are doing and trying to learn more. So I appreciate you guys being willing to share your knowledge around your programs. My only question before I open it up to others for questions, where can individuals find more information on getting some of those internships that you speak of, Mike?
We work, well, the main campus is at Lummi, and we work with Emma Norman, and she's over the NWIC intern programs. And almost all I think there's 6 satellites of the NWIC program, the main campus. Swinomish has 1. And so there's always a site supervisor at all the other NWIC satellite sites. So they're good to touch base with them and see if they know of any students that want to participate, but then they need to contact Emma because she is over that whole program. And so there's different ways to go about it. NWIC will sometimes offer a learning contract, it's called, and they will pay the student. It's like minimum wage, but they can earn credit, usually a science credit if they're working in our program, along with getting paid to work hours. And then there's other, depending on your program, your programming, sometimes we end up paying for the student, depending on the funding that NWIC has. So there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration, but it is a very rewarding program. Some of them are 3 months, some of them are 6 months, and some of them are year-long interns. So there's a lot to learn about it, but it's a great way for people to step into the forest and the wild plant education and gardening and learning how to do all those things that they may or may not have experience in. And so it's really wonderful to get to know these different students, and you never know what pathway it might open up for them.
Thank you for sharing. I will go ahead and open the floor. If there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask Anna or Mike.
And I also want to add this as well. So this is our curriculum. This is what the book looks like. And if anyone is interested in getting a copy of this, feel free to send us an email. I'll go ahead and put Mike and I's email in the chat. And we really do want to distribute this to other tribal communities and do work on collaborations and other things like that.
I had a question for Anna. My name's Amanda. I work at the North Sound ACH. You mentioned you were talking about foods and you said healthier foods, but also first foods. And I was wondering if you could share with us what you mean by first.
Yeah, so our first foods. So what I mean by that is, so there are healthier foods. So at our produce stands, we offer all sorts of produce from everywhere. But our first foods, and that's what we offer in our community garden as well. So just our ancestral foods and foods that our peoples ate when they were first here, pre-contact usually. So that includes things like camas and again, all the berries that I listed earlier, and also all of our seafood. So we're really fortunate. We have a wealth of foods around us in the Swinomish community. So we have a wide variety of shellfish and also various types of fish as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean when I say that term. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And it looks like there's a question in the chat box from Kate Smith. Are there ways we can support your programs?
Well, just spreading the word and talking about, you know, the interest that you have, following the 13 Moons at Work Facebook page, you know, letting our general manager and the Senate know that you really like our program. You know how that goes. But we have had wonderful support from the Senate and our managers, and we greatly appreciate their support in letting this program continue. Many people tell us that it's good work, and we appreciate it very much. There's so many things that are going on in the world that are negative, but going out, taking people out into the forest and reconnecting them to their forests and plants and foods is really healthy for them mentally, physically, spiritually, in all the ways that you can improve your health. Going out into the woods and discovering or rediscovering those plants is very important. And as times get more difficult, people really need to find places where they can refresh themselves in healthy ways. So that's one of the things, you know, it's kind of all around physical and mental health, being out in the woods along the shoreline and doing that good physical activity that you're also, as many Swinomish elders say, you're feeding your spirit when you're out there and partaking of these traditional foods. So it helps people all the way around feel healthy. And it's important for young people to reconnect to those. And as briefly mentioned earlier, each family has their own teachings about traditional foods. And so our hope is not to share those teachings, but for youth to go back home and talk about whatever traditional foods we harvested or learned about that day, and spark conversation with their grandmas, their grandpas, their aunties, their uncles about those foods. And then they will learn the teachings from their family about that particular food. So that's another really wonderful element that we've been able to feel like we were able to support and help spark those conversations. I just wanted to take a moment to say something about the 13 Moons produce stands. When we started out, we had just one, and Anna came and she really promoted that. And as she said, we now have 5, and that's in large part to her hard work promoting that. And we had this summer, there were people who came so regularly, and one of them was a senator who has really bad arthritis in his knees. And he said he couldn't believe after 6 weeks of eating more fruits and vegetables, he said his arthritis was so greatly improved and he hadn't done anything different. So there's just one example of how healthy eating does impact our health. And he was just so impressed with the short amount of time it took to improve his diet in that way. And his wife is not well. And he said it's hard for her to go shopping. But he said coming here to the produce stands and getting our produce for the week, he said if we have it in the house, we eat it and we cook it. So it just made us feel very good that that result came out of just producing or providing a benefit that we didn't even know that they were struggling with being able to get that kind of produce, but making it available quickly improves people's health. And what a great feeling.
Thank you, Mike, for that. We do have another question in the chat box from Mike Parker at Opportunity Council. What are your visions for the future, especially post-grant sustainability? This is really amazing work. Thanks so much for sharing.
Well, we've been a grant-funded program for 20 years. So our grant writer, Jamie Donatuto, is just wonderful. And she works really, really hard to sustain us. So it would be great if there were a way to make money off of this, but that would have to come from tribal members. So that doesn't feel right, really, because most of the people we serve would not, they're already in a food desert and it's already difficult enough for them. Many of them live in multi-generational families and money's tight. So it's our aim to just keep providing this as long as we have the funding for it to make it available to folks. And, you know, who knows what will happen in the future? There's no certainties about funding for anybody. So we just keep going as long as we can, and, you know, hope that as time goes on, there'll be more money to support things like this. Tribes have so many obligations and so many needs, they can't do everything. So if we can provide this through grant funding, that's what we aim to do. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. There is another question in the chat box about getting the addresses to the produce booths. And so Anna and Mike, I don't know if you want to share those with us or share where we can find those. Another question is, can you talk a little bit about food sovereignty and what that means for those that may not be familiar with that term?
Yeah, I can answer the food sovereignty portion. So it's a term that was kind of coined a few decades ago, and it's been an increasing popular movement among especially Indigenous communities in particular. Again, Mike said that a lot of reservations are food deserts, and it's true. Like if you go to our reservation, the only food source we really have is a gas station, and it's inconvenient, but it's also convenient at the same time. So food sovereignty is basically just the right to know where your food comes from and have accessibility to that. So one of our goals as a department is to promote food sovereignty in the sense that we have other sources of food that we can accept, that we can have access to if we want to. And it just is something that we all have a right to do. We should be able to dictate what we eat, and being able to take from our earth what the earth is offering us is medicine within itself, and also tying us back to our roots. And it's a beautiful philosophy altogether, and I'm really grateful that we're able to share this knowledge again, and hopefully that helps people get a better understanding as to what food sovereignty means and the importance of it, and why more folks should hopefully take the time to maybe just take a second to reflect upon it. And what does food sovereignty mean to you? I hear people say that it means tradition. For other folks, it means accessibility. And for me, it's a mixture of everything. Food sovereignty is almost a lifestyle. Without food, obviously, we wouldn't really be here. So our people were able to survive for thousands of years on our traditional foods, and we should hopefully be able to incorporate those as much as we can now, just to honor them and to honor ourselves.
Just to add on to a little bit of what Anna said, part of the 13 Moons Gardens, which were started a long time ago, about 20 years ago, at the Indian College as a teaching tool to help students learn how to grow their own food, whether it's traditional foods or since contact times foods. And so during this pandemic time, we did see a lot more interest in gardening. Swinomish are fishermen. They're fishing people. So gardening in the way that we think of in the United States was not something that was real acceptable to do. Although wild food harvesting, as we've learned over time, is that in times past, with clam gardens and other areas associated with clam gardens, especially in the BC area, there is archaeology that shows that gardening was done by fishing people. Maybe not in the way that we think of a little plot of ground and you hoe it up and plant seeds, but what already existed was tended and taken care of as the Coast Salish people went through to harvest their clams from their clam gardens. That were another cultivated practice that has been rediscovered in recent decades. And we're happy to say we're going to have one at Swinomish in the not too distant future. Apparently the first one in the lower 48 that will at least, we think that there probably were clam gardens in all of Coast Salish area, but we're going to build the first one in the lower 48. So all of that to say, food is so vital to people, and the opportunity to have gardening experience and open up the community gardens during the pandemic, and even prior to that and after that. We have community volunteer hours where folks can come and garden if they want to, and help harvest and plant and do all those sorts of things, but also to learn how to garden in their own yards and grow their own food is really important. So we've expanded a little bit on that, and we're hoping to provide more workshops on canning and food preservation. That seems to be something that people are keenly interested in these times. So the interest is there, and we're excited to be able to offer that.
And then to kind of go back to the other question of the location. So our current produce that we offer is for our tribal community members here at Swinomish. So we have locations at the preschool, at the transitional living house, at the fitness center, the medical clinic, and then also at our 13 Moose Garden. And so hopefully with all this information that we're providing with everyone, we're helping to spark some ideas in other communities. And again, maybe look for potential collaborations. We do invite folks to come to our produce stand at the garden. However, we do want to reserve a lot of the foods and a lot of the things that we do offer for our tribal folk. But we'd again love to continue conversations with people. And if you want to get out and kind of see what our gardens are all about, we encourage you to send us an email beforehand, and we can hopefully set something up if that's something that you're interested in doing.
I might add too, if you're just curious what the stands look like, if you go on the 13 Moons Facebook page, Anna posts every week what we're going to have at the produce stands and beautiful pictures, and whatever our wild plant of the week is, we usually have a sample of that available at the main produce stand. So if folks want to try a sample of a wild food, they can come up and try that too.
So it looks like we have another question in the chat box. Do you have a composting practice you manage?
Yes, we do. We have several. In the elder garden, we have the turning style. It's in a big tub and it has a small opening, and you put in your items in there and spin it, add water and spin it. And then we have another one at the preschool garden that's the same way. So kids learn how to recycle or make compost out of plant materials there. And then we have a large 3-bin compost in the back where the main gardens are, near the greenhouse. We also have a greenhouse that was installed many years ago. And this summer, we are awarded from NRSC a hoop house that will extend our growing season. So we're looking forward to having that installed soon. Anyway, so yes, we do composting. And we learn how to grow good dirt. We've had workshops on that too.
Thank you for answering those questions. Are there any more questions? Again, feel free to unmute yourself or write in the chat box, or any comments that you may have for Anna or Mike before we end today's session. Perfect. Oh, there's. Do you, Liz, is it, do they take contribution? Oh, gotcha. I'm assuming it was take. So do you take contributions to support your program?
Yes, if somebody wants to make a contribution, they would make it out to Swinomish Indian Tribal Community, and in the notes say for Community Environmental Health Program. But we do not have CO 153 status, so it's not a tax break. Sorry, I just have to put that in there.
Hello, this is Jules. I just had a quick question. I want to say thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's really incredible to learn what you're doing. And I have kind of a technical question. I'm curious about how many people you have on staff during, say, the busy season and interns and or volunteers. It seems like a lot of work, and I'm curious to see how many hands go into all the help. Thank you.
As Anna mentioned, we're a small crew, but we work hard. I've been gardening for many, many years, so I'm a pretty experienced gardener. Anna and I just finished the WSU Extension Home Horticulture class. Anna's newer to gardening, but I know she benefited greatly from that. Her grandmother was an avid gardener, and she passed recently, and so they are taking over her garden. So they're really learning a lot. In answer to your question, it's Anna and I and one intern, and then whatever community volunteers come. Our intern is 20 hours a week. So yeah, but you know, they've been maintained for a while, and it's like anything, when you've done it for a long time, you have a routine, and it's not as overwhelming as it is when you start in the beginning. Inheriting gardens is always another challenge, because you don't, you're not always totally aware of what the previous gardeners had in mind. So, making it work with what you have to work with, just is being flexible and positive. And we also have the opportunity to have water workers come. Folks who are struggling to pay their water bill can come and work in the community gardens, and the money goes towards their water bill. So there's different little incentives that we have. So most of the time it's just the three of us, and not even full time in the gardens at that, because we have a lot of other duties to do as well. So it just works, and I'm so glad that you brought up Philip, Anna. I was able to get a whole bunch of raspberry starts donated, and so Anna and Philip took on the challenge of planting an entire row of raspberries and staked them and had wires for them to grow between, and they'd never done anything like that, and it turned out beautiful. So it can be done.
So I have a question. My name is Vanessa Diaz. My maiden name is Vanessa McLeod. I grew up on the Swinomish Reservation. I'm an enrolled member of the Samish tribe. And my cousin Tessa did a nettles live cooking show, and it was so fun and so great to I've never seen somebody cook nettles and do the whole process. And so I'm wondering if Swinomish, or if I know you have so many other things to do, but are you going to have more community members come in and teach us who have been removed so much from our traditional foods and our, first foods, how to cook with them, how to cook in our traditional way that's good for our soul, for our medicine, to feed our soul, to feed our Indian, as one of my friends, Becky Black, always says. So, are you going to have more videos of that? Because that was really, really great.
Yes, we love Tessa. She's so amazing. It's so much fun. Pre-COVID, we had different folks lined up to come and do native chefs to come and do the community dinners with all traditional foods. We had one guy from Samish come, lives on Orcas, and he owns Hogstone Restaurant. He came and did one, and he did duck and a whole bunch of other amazing things. And then Tessa came, and we've been after her to come and do some more, but she's super busy. And tomorrow, as Anna mentioned, we have a community member. She's not Swinomish, but she's lived at Swinomish for 40 years, and she's one of the cooks at the gym. Gail Caillou, she's coming to do Indian ice cream and Indian ice cream juice. That's what she calls it. So yes, we absolutely love to have folks come and do that sort of thing. It's just timing and getting over shyness of being in front of the camera during these times. That's a little bit hard for some people, but we love to have that kind of engagement. And So we're hoping to have more of that as time goes on. And we have to be super careful right now. COVID has not left us, and we just have to use great caution. So that's kind of slowed us down a little bit for doing too much. But when appropriate and with as much precaution as we can, we do hope to continue doing things like this in a safe way. Post-COVID, we hope to do a lot more. We really miss the community dinners and getting together and having the monthly dinners and all of that. So normally at the powwow time, we have a tent up and it's there for 3 days, and we have all kinds of demonstrations of wild foods and medicines, and we have a cedar box with all of the goodies in it and all kinds of things that are just not possible to do right now, but eventually we will.
And 2 more things. I just want to kind of reiterate that kind of sparked a few thoughts in my mind, Mike. So we might have already touched on this, but again, our mission and our goal isn't to share culturally sensitive or family sensitive information, but just information that people are willing to share, and also to spark conversations within their families. Again, I think that was already said, but I just want to reiterate that we're not trying to exploit people's harvesting spots or anything like that, but we do want to encourage families to go home and talk about it and do it in their own way. And we just want to kind of be like a platform for them to kind of branch off into their own practices and their families. And then also we do really instill ethical harvesting practices. So if you do go to our Facebook page, that's going to be the first thing that you see is our ethical harvesting practices and things that you should follow. A lot of our resources, there are very limited. So we have to be really careful in the information, again, that we share and in what we encourage. And if people do get inspired and want to go harvesting, like, we really encourage them to go with someone who's really familiar with plants and knows what they're harvesting. And again, just abide by just ethical harvesting practices and guidelines that everyone should follow when they're going out into the woods. Again, it is a very sacred place and people need to treat it as such.
Perfect. So I think that wraps up today's session. Anna and Mike, I don't know if you have anything else to share to finish up. We appreciate all of the great work that you're doing, and I hope that some of the organizations on the call can learn from the work that you guys are doing and maybe adapt that to fit the population that they serve. So I appreciate all of your work that you're doing. I appreciate your willingness to share with the North Sound ACH and our partners. There's also some great comments in the chat box, thanking both of you for the hard work that you guys are doing.
Thank you for inviting us. We enjoyed it. I'm glad I was able to figure out the sound on a different device. Appreciate the support.
Yes, take a great seat, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and see everybody later.
Bye.
Bye.